How many of you all would like to know what has been sabotaging your health, your weight? Okay. How many of you all would like to know what your perfect personal diet is? Okay, good. How many of y'all know what is absolutely, truly healthy for you and you're eating that way right now? Okay, are you sure? You're sure? Okay, good. I was too. And I was wrong. Many times, not just once. Because there's a lot to that. There's an awful lot to that. How many of you all want to become more empowered? Great. And how well do you change when you're given new information? Slower. Well, you're not alone because I am there too. All of us are, I think. Well, I'm going to talk about eat right for your blood, genes, gut, and soul today. Because you see, I don't like to guess. I was a baseball player. My father taught me as a hitter, never go up to the plate guessing. So I hate guessing. And I've been guessing so many times, and I keep getting it wrong on diet, get it partially right, but still not all the pieces. So there's something I have learned from my own life experience about taking out the guesswork, and it has made a humongous difference. So I can know exactly what's right. This is the missing manual for body-soul health. That's one word, by the way, body-soul. There's no separation. And we need to realize there's no separation between our body and our soul. And to let go of any artificial separations that we have. We have a food jungle out there. We have foods that our body cannot recognize that we're putting in our body every day. We have man-made processed foods. We have highly engineered addictive foods that are there to create repeat business, but our body cannot digest them, cannot process them, and our liver is overworked because of this. How do we make sense of this food jungle out there? Here's something that when I came across these words years ago, this is Bible for me, by the way, these words from Hippocrates, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. Whoa, what a radical concept. Radical in that food could be medicine? Well, there goes Big Pharma, maybe. If we learn to find our medicine in the most nutritious food on the planet, there's no reason for pills and for drugs and drug companies. To be able to heal naturally, live naturally, is how our grandparents did it, right? So maybe there's a lesson for us to learn from them. So what about if we start to make food our medicine? Well, we've always thought about, well, if you need to lose weight, the old formula was, well, eat less and exercise more, right? It's a 50-50 equation. How well has that worked for all of us? Temporarily, probably pretty good, except there's a real problem. It's really 80% food and 20% exercise. Well, that's a good start, but that's all that is just scratching the surface. Because you cannot exercise your way out of a bad diet. So maybe there's a lot more to the food component than we realize. Well, the standard American diet today is loaded with all kinds of concoctions that our body cannot recognize, cannot use at all. Because the food we're eating is loaded, are you aware of this, with petroleum fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, antibiotics. What is antibiotics doing in our food? Growth hormones, genetically modified organisms, and frankenfoods. All of that is in the standard American diet. Matter of fact, 70% of the standard American diet is made up of these highly inflammatory, toxic ingredients that our body cannot process, that's breaking down our immune system, that's creating inflammation. And we've got to do something that very much like we did with when we were learning to drive. We learned something called defensive driving. And if we need a reminder and we get a ticket, what do we get to go do? Take a defensive driving course, right? Well, what if we took that idea about defensive driving and applied it towards our eating? Maybe we need a defensive eating course. Yes. Well, that's what we're going to just scratch the surface of today, is about defensive eating, what we've really got to do. Because we've got to get rid of inflammation. It's the silent killer in our bodies. Inflammation sets up all the diseases that we are dealing with right now. It starts off with obesity, carrying extra weight, because that's a sign of inflammation. I know, because I was 50 pounds heavier than this, and I thought I was eating healthy, but I had a lot of inflammation going on my body because I was very unconscious about certain things that my body could not handle. So we set up, from the inflammation sets up obesity. It sets up what we call diabesity. And what is diabesity? It's diabetes type 2. It sets up Alzheimer's, which is diabetes type 3. It sets up neurological diseases, cardiovascular diseases, pulmonary diseases. It sets up autoimmune diseases, arthritis, and cancer. All that comes from inflammation in our body, things our body cannot handle and process naturally. And we have these in epidemic proportions today, these diseases. Inflammation caused. So maybe we should try and do something different with the food pyramid. Maybe we should try to do, as opposed to looking at it horizontally between our carbohydrates, our proteins, and our fats, of how they should be, maybe we should split the food pyramid right down the middle. And we learn to separate toxic foods from healthy foods. And here's what happens if we start to do that. The first thing you want to eliminate is sugar. Sugar is a poison in our body, and not just white sugar, sugar in any form. Stevia is okay because it's natural and it doesn't create a glycemic load in your body. But sugar is more addictive than heroin. Did you know that? They have proven this with lab rats. They were hooked on heroin, and they introduced in one meal sugar, and what happened? They kicked their habit, and they went to sugar. No more heroin. Sugar was a bigger fix for them. Yeah. And sugar sets up all these things because it destroys our immune system. It starts to destroy our brain health too by getting too much sugar in our body. And it's not just sugar, it's all the different forms of sugars and things that are sweeteners that set us up. Did you realize that cancer cannot live in the absence of sugar? You heard that? Some people who've had cancer. Otto Warburg in 1931 won a Nobel Prize for the discovery of this. Cancer has to have glucose, has to have sugar to live off of. Wow. So that's the first thing we want to eliminate because it's the most inflammatory. It's the biggest poison we can put in our body. There are alternatives, but the second is all processed foods are as unnatural can get. They're highly toxic to us. Our body can't really process them. Oh, it tastes great. It's engineered to taste like the real food, but that's just it. It's a science project. It's been engineered in labs to trick you, to make you think that this is delicious and wonderful, and it's addiction the same way tobacco companies sold addiction using nicotine, and they got repeat business because they were not in the tobacco business, they were in the addiction business. Many of them are in the food business today, and they're selling the same addiction, and they're just looking for an addiction delivery device. Sugar is their primary component of all the processed foods. So anything that's fast food, floured, that it's made of flour, anything that's in a box, a package, you've got to be very suspect of it. It's unnatural. What if you just went and ate the most natural things the way our grandparents ate? It would change a lot of things in our health. Then we want to get rid of the GMOs, the genetically modified organisms, out of our diet. Corn, soy, these are big ones that are just, they're completely engineered foods. Our body can't process genetically modified corn. 95% of all corn is genetically modified. Matter of fact, our body really can't process it, and if you want to know why, have you ever looked at your stool after you ate corn? Did you digest it, or did you just pass it right on through? We don't need to be eating corn, not this modern corn, because it's so inflammatory. Did you know that corn is registered as a pesticide? As a pesticide. Because in Monsanto's corn is genetically modified with something called a Bt toxin, and that Bt toxin is there for when a bug comes to eat that corn, takes a bite out of it. Over 2 days, the bug's stomach swells up and explodes, and the insect dies. Did you know that? So when you're eating corn, you're eating a pesticide. Well, guess what? This corn is also engineered to withstand Agent Orange light from the people that brought us Agent Orange in Vietnam, Monsanto. So when you spray Roundup on corn, it doesn't die. Everything else green around it dies, but not that corn. And all that gets passed into our body. And the most difficult part about corn is that it is the glyphosate that is in the corn and that is ripping our guts to pieces with leaky gut and setting up autoimmune diseases. Wow. Corn should be labeled like cigarettes should be labeled. And corn is ubiquitous in all of our food. Next thing you want to eliminate are grains, because why? Particularly wheat. Wheat is very dangerous to us, to our bodies, because wheat becomes sugar so fast that did you know that if you eat one slice of whole wheat bread, which we think is healthy, in one slice it will spike your blood sugar more than a Snickers bar. Okay, so now I just gave you permission to have a Snickers diet. Not really. Isn't that amazing? But here's the problem with wheat. Wheat was engineered back in the 1960s by Norman Borlaug to get away from the tall amber waves of grain to a short wheat that is drought resistant and has a higher yield. Sounds great. They won a Nobel Prize for this. And he's been able to feed many people in the world, and it was genius. But now we can look downstream from what's happened, and it has compromised our immune system tremendously because it has two things our body cannot process that is poisonous to our body. One is gluten. You all know about gluten. You've been hearing a lot about gluten, and you don't want to have gluten in you because your body can't handle gluten, and your brain can't handle it, your heart can't handle it. But the other is something, it's a toxic protein that came out of this new dwarf variety called gliadin. That's a poison in our body. And that's why you want to cut out wheat in any form in your diet. Unless you can get einkorn wheat or European wheat, Polish wheat, that's the tall wheat, your body can probably handle that. But good luck in finding it. Good luck in finding it. Next thing you want to eliminate are all industrial proteins, fats, and carbs. Anything that's corporate made is going to end up being toxic in your body. It's very simple. Anything that is man-made, leave it alone. Anything that is nature-made, God-made, bring it on. Because where we want to go here is to get over to where our meds are. And by the way, this is just our first filter in discovering your perfect diet. But when we get over here to where the healthy meds are, we want all the organic vegetables and fruits we can possibly eat. There is no higher micronutrient value in any food on the planet than there are in our vegetables, our colorful vegetables. They're pure medicine. Matter of fact, all of the pharmaceutical industry is based on replicating nature from these plants. So why not go to the source, get them clean, organic, without the petroleum fertilizers on there and the other things that they have to deal with, the pesticides, all that is inside of it. You see, here's a really important point. You are what your food ate. You are what your food ate. We have to know what's inside of our food because whatever's inside of our food is going to end up being inside of us. And can our body process that? So, all the fresh organic fruits and vegetables. Next, we want healthy fats. Olive oil, avocados. No, avocados, nature's butter. use that. If you can't eat dairy, avocados are fantastic. And spread them on anything. Then what do you do after that? Grass and sun protein. What do I mean by grass and sun protein? Anything that's grass-fed or pasture-raised is going to be very medicinal for your body. So I'm talking about grass-fed beef, bison. I'm talking about pastured pork. I'm talking about free-range chicken and eggs. Wow, that's very medicinal for you. So eat that. That's natural. We evolved eating that food. We don't need a lot of it. We don't need much protein at a meal, 4 to 5 ounces. But it can be very, very healthy for us. Now, we'll talk about something later, whether you can handle a high-fat diet, then you can eat more of that. And some of us have to have a high-fat diet. Next thing is you want all the water you can possibly drink. That's just powerful for us. We need water, so hydrate all the time. Fasting can be very powerful because what does fasting do? Fasting is very similar to exercise in that it helps, and it's very, very similar to sleep. It helps our body renew itself. It helps our cells self-repair. Now, fasting doesn't have to be a 2, 3, 5, or week-long fast. No. It can be done very shortly. You could do maybe once a month, or if you really need to bring things back in balance, maybe once a week, a 22-hour fast. That way you don't have to, you can eat on one day and still eat on the next day. You're giving your body a break from food. That allows your body to heal the more you give it a break from food. Now, here's another idea around fasting that's very powerful, and that's something called intermittent fasting. And what do we do with intermittent fasting? Is you eat in an 8 to 12-hour window. Give your body a break from food for 12 hours a day. Eat your 3 meals if you want. You don't need snacks if you're eating nutritious food. But you can do that, or you can even compress it to an 8-hour window. That gives your body 16 hours to assimilate your food and then to eliminate your food. That's called natural hygiene, by the way. So we're talking about just not eating and grazing throughout the day, but keep it in a window, and your body loves that type of schedule. So the last thing we want to do here that's really very powerful is exercise. Just move our body, because our body self-repairs whenever we're moving it. This is the first filter to find your perfect diet, the one that's going to be just right. The next thing you want to do, which shows why all diets can't work for you, is blood test for your food allergies. This is the best money Janet and I ever spent, was blood testing for our food allergies, to find out what things in our body that I was not aware of that was silently inflaming me. And once I realized that, I stopped it. Except I looked at the dairy thing and said, well, look, it's just it looks like it's a mild thing there, and I've never noticed any problem eating dairy. So what do? I went ahead and kept eating my favorite Manchego cheese from Spain. And thinking, I don't show any symptoms from that, and I would leave it off and put it back in, and I didn't notice any difference. That was a big mistake by me. But blood testing takes out the guesswork. So this is filter number 2 to discovering your perfect diet. Blood testing, I use Cyrex Labs. They have the most advanced technology to be able to screen for your major ones, or even for 150 foods if you want to do a larger blood panel for that. That's filter number 2 to discover your perfect diet. Again, what are we trying to do? Trying to eliminate inflammation. Now, all disease begins in the gut, Hippocrates said. So what do we have to do is repair our immune system as needed. And because our immune system is in our gut. That is our Army, our Navy, our Marines, our Coast Guard, and our Air Force. This is how we can fight off any disease. The best cancer fighter in the world is your own immune system. That's a very powerful filter to learn how to rebuild your immune system, to find out if there's any bacterial infections in your immune system. Most of us have that. And then to learn to recorrect it with probiotics and fermented foods, and vinegar is fabulous to helping rebuild your gut bacteria, your immune system. So that's another filter. And then there's one other one. Got a call from one of our doctors who had done a heart scan for Janet and I. He says, I got good news and I got bad news. I said, okay, doc, what's up? He said, Janet's a 0. I said, you're a better doctor than that. My God, she's a 12 on a scale of 1 to 10. How could she be a 0? He said, but you're a 12, 78. Oh, okay, I'm way up there. Good, scoring those goals. No, that's not good. Well, I don't know anything about a CT heart scan, calcium score test. So he starts explaining to me that you want a 0 because it's about the plaque buildup around your heart. And so he says, anything over 100, we start to watch. Between 200 and 400, you start to get in the very cautious zone. And anything above 400 is dangerous. Anything above 400. I'm a 1278. He thinks I'm going to have a heart attack any moment. I said, how can this possibly be? I'm in great shape. I can go run and swim an hour to hour and a half, and I'm not out of breath. Lap swimming or running in the gym and running fairly fast. I'm in great shape. How can this possibly be? So I did what any responsible, maybe quasi-spiritually awakened, conscious being would do. I went in denial. And because I couldn't process how I said, I need to get redone, but this score cannot be. And he gives me cardiology, says, you need to get to go see them right away. He's holding his breath as he's talking to me about this. And so finally, I started to research this. I went to see our functional medicine doctor, who I have great confidence in, and started researching everything I could find out about this. And then I started to suspect I had something known as the ApoE gene. Well, we all have the ApoE gene. Every one of us has the ApoE gene. It's the most studied gene of all the genes that we've had. It's been studied since 1972. What the ApoE gene does, it comes in 3 varieties, and this is why, I'll just make it real simple, why this is so important. It comes in a variety of a 2, a 3, or a 4. We get 1 gene from our mother, 1 gene from our father. I'm not going to explain all of it, but the bottom line is this. Anybody who is an ApoE2, which is about 15% of us, absolutely has to have a high-fat diet. And if they eat a low-fat diet, they are setting themselves up for heart disease, brain disease, strokes, everything. A low-fat diet will set up massive inflammation in their body. Now, the ApoE3s, which Janet is, can eat a high-fat diet or a moderate-fat diet. And if they're on a low-fat diet, it will the same thing happen. So the 2s and the 3s, which make up 75% of us, absolutely cannot eat a low-fat diet without setting up massive problems in our body and setting up great inflammation. Now, I turn out to be an ApoE4. Yay! I won the evolutionary jackpot because the ApoE4s don't need much fat because we hold on to it, and so we can survive famines. We can survive earthquakes. We can survive the greatest cataclysms because this was the genotype that did survive mass extinctions. So, as I'm researching this, I suspected I was that. We did the test. Yep, I'm an ApoE4. So here's what is so interesting. Janet and I eat the same food. It's the healthiest food you can possibly eat. We've got these filters on, and this wild card gene appears. And it's set up this massive heart disease that I have right now, that I am correcting quickly and powerfully, naturally, completely naturally, no drugs. Janet and I eat the same thing. What's good for her is poison for me. Because an ApoE4 has to be a low-fat diet. So I had coffee And I was putting coconut oil in my coffee and grass-fed butter in my coffee, known as bulletproof coffee. Seemed to be great. Takes away all your appetite. Great. Let's pour gasoline on your fire, Jimmy. I was unconscious. Because an ApoE4 not only has to eat a low-fat diet, cannot eat dairy, cannot take any alcohol at all because alcohol is liquid fat for an ApoE4, and coffee is highly inflammatory to an ApoE4. Well, it's okay. I just had to give up that. I didn't drink much wine, but I was eating cheese, and of course that went out the window. And the coffee, I had to give that up. Well, it's my body. It's no big deal when you realize this is your best medicine. So that's the ApoE. That's the fourth. There's another filter. So when you start to put these filters on, you start to discover what is your perfect diet. What we come to is to realize that one diet works for everybody. And there are things we have to do to bring our health back. More things than I can possibly cover here today. This is just the tip of the iceberg about regaining your optimum health and your optimum weight. And setting up a strong immune system. I have a series of classes that I'm going to be doing here, starting in May, 4 classes on eat right for your blood, genes, gut, and soul. And there's a lot of things I'll cover in that. About lifestyle medicine, all the other factors that are so important in our health, such as stress, our emotional life, such as the environment around us, such as sleep, and the big one is purpose. Purpose. That's our soul. And really about how we attend to our soul. Because all of this works together synergistically. So, if you want to be able to really know what is healthy for you, if you want to find out what's been sabotaging you, if you want to know what is the perfect diet for you, these are things that we all have to come to face with, because nobody can be a better doctor than you can be for you. You are your best doctor, and there is absolutely nothing that you and I cannot heal, from cancer to heart disease, and heal it naturally. Because what got us in this mess was our lifestyle. Oh, it's even reported that 90% of all cancers are lifestyle related. Lifestyle related, not genetics. Our genetics can be changed by epigenetics, by our lifestyle factors that inform our genes how they want to be expressed. You have the power within you to heal anything. Given the right information and the right tools, your health can be restored to where you need it to be. Now, there's nothing wrong with dying. I don't think any of us are afraid of dying. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of how I die. Does that make sense? But we can live the most vibrant life, the most healthy life, and find our optimum health again by learning to go back to what our body really needs and feed it the right medicine for us. Because you are what you eat, move, what you sleep, what you stress about, what you believe, what you think, what you store, what you environmentally absorb, and what you soul express. All of these are factors that comprise our health. And you are your own best doctor. You have all the power, all the tools right there available, but it starts by changing your diet for what your body really needs. Listen to your body and tailor your food accordingly. Eat right for your blood, genes, gut, and soul. Thank you.